What's up, fuckers? It's tea time. Now, I hear motherfuckers left and right say, why vote? My vote doesn't count anyway. Hearing that shit makes me madder than a Baptist in a brothel, and that's exactly what I used to be. But if you're on the right, all I have to say is you are absolutely right. Your vote does not count, so don't vote. Stay home, prop your feet up, you need your strength. There's a lot of minorities out there that still need to be verbally assaulted and spit on. So turn this election stuff off and you rest up. Now, if you're one of the lucky ones on the left, it's time for an education. Okay, fuckers, your vote does count, but not in the way that you think it does. When you're in the polling booth voting, you're actually not voting directly for a presidential candidate, but for electors in your state. This clusterfuck of nonsense is due to the Electoral College. You know, that outdated thing older than Methuselah that gifted us Donald Trump 4 years ago? That's right. Donald Trump did not win the most votes for president in 2016. Hillary Clinton did. In fact, Hillary Clinton got almost 3 million more votes from the American people, which is called the popular vote, which is the only vote that should matter. Like Kamala, we the people, were speaking, and we were calling to Hillary Clinton to save us from the Trumpocalypse. Unfortunately, the fraud of Fifth Avenue, the Lion King, the Cheeto-in-Chief, whatever you want to call him, he won the Electoral College. So what is the Electoral College, you ask? Time to get balls deep in knowledge. The Electoral College is a group of people appointed by each state who formally elect the president and vice president in each state. Stupid. Since 1964, there have been 538 electors in each presidential election. The number of electors is equal to the 435 representatives in Congress, the 100 senators in the United States, and 3 representatives from the District of Columbia. So basically, Trump and Biden are campaigning in each state to add up the electors in every state so they can surpass 270 electoral votes, which is basically half of 538. Each state receives a certain number of electors based on the size of the population. It's like a video game. The more people in the state, the more points you get. Except if Donald wins this game, then it's game over America. The census happens every 10 years. So every 10 years, a state may gain or lose electors in that state. And ironically enough, the Supreme Court just allowed the Trump administration to end the census count early this year with no explanation at all. There couldn't possibly be any tea there. Moving on. I live in Texas. It's known as a red state, which really makes this place look like hell on earth for someone who is not straight, white, and Christian. And that describes rural Texas perfectly. But not the cities, baby. We're all big, beautiful, and blue. Texas has 38 electoral votes, which are awarded as winner takes all. So even if Pumpkin Tits squeaks out a win here by, say, 49.999% to 49.998%, then he will get all 38 electoral votes towards his goal of 270. A federal appeals court just ruled this year that this system was right and proper. This is why we're all talking about turning Texas blue. We want Biden to get all 38 of these votes. This is why presidential candidates want to win big states like Texas, New York, and Florida. If there are more blue votes than red ones in these 3 states, that means Biden gets 96 votes towards his goal of 270 with just those 3 states. If a presidential candidate wins Alaska, Delaware, Hawaii, Idaho, Maine, North Dakota, South Dakota, Rhode Island, Vermont, Wyoming, and New Hampshire, they only get 38 electoral votes. Do you see how fucking stupid this is? 12 states are the equivalent of Texas. Now, I know Texas is big, but really, bitch? 5 times in history, the presidential candidate with the most votes from the American people lost the race in the Electoral College. That's how Trump won, and it also happened for George W. Bush in 2000, another fucking mess of an election that ended up being decided in the Supreme Court. Bush wasn't elected, he was selected. And now, Amy Coney Barrett is the new kid on the court, and she's sharpening her pencil and getting ready to do it all over again for Trump. So why do we have this damned Electoral College thing? Let me see. Supposedly, the Electoral College exists to balance power between rural states and urban states. People were afraid the urban states would be too bossy and the rural states would have no say in the government. But in 1790, in the first U.S. Census, 95% of the country lived in rural states. So something's not adding up. Let's go back to 1787. Shouldn't be too hard since Amy Coney Barrett's already working on getting us there. Okay, fuckers, way back when, southern states wanted 2 senators for every individual state regardless of population. For example, California has 2 senators for almost 40 million people, and Wyoming has 2 senators for a little over 500,000 people. Sounds legit. But more importantly, the South also wanted a 3/5 compromise. The 3/5 compromise was black people would be counted as 3/5 of a person. Have you ever seen 3/5 of a person, black or white, walk down the street? This system created an overrepresentation of rural areas in the United States. So slavery no longer exists, but the Electoral College still suppresses minority votes. During the Great Migration, millions of black people left the South and went to the coasts and cities often in the North. So now over 70% of rural areas are filled with conservative white people, and urban areas have all the progressive voices and minorities. The Electoral College favors the rural areas. Native American, Latino, Asian, and black votes are overshadowed by, you guessed it, systemic racism. If we got rid of the Electoral College, we probably wouldn't have a Republican president ever again. Sounds like equality for all. If we got rid of the Electoral College, we could get rid of red states and blue states and just have American states. We need to stop the division. Why do you think Dr. Noose is always so focused on red states and blue states? Remember when he said the COVID-19 death toll would be lower if you don't count blue states? He knows he won't get the blue state electors' vote, so blue states don't matter to him. Why else do you think it took him so long for him to help California while it was on fire? It's a blue state. Pissing them off wouldn't affect his re-election one little bit. The Electoral College has brought electile dysfunction to this country for far too long. So I need everybody to rush to the polls like blood to a penis and vote hard for blue so this country can stand erect and proud again. Vote Joe Biden. Let's get a real president, flip the Senate, end the Electoral College, and enact a national popular vote. I want everybody to have a great fucking day unless you're a red state racist.